Hi guys, my name is Michael Graves, and today I'm going to give you pro tips on emotional expression.
Sing on, yeah.
Now,
Sing
when
on, yeah.
talking about emotional expression, and we're talking about conveying emotion in the song, because what we're talking about is the sixth element of singing, which is dynamics, right? Of the sixth element of singing. If you want to learn more about this or actually get detailed instructions and detailed teachings on how to develop this ability, you can take my courses at www.singingfromscratch.com, the whole course, or you can just take the portion on dynamics, right, of the six elements, the sixth element. This is the last one. Because this is the element that takes it from being just singing and music to creating into art form. That creates it, it makes it into an art form, right? And dynamics are volume and vibrato. Really, that's all there really is. That's the mechanical parts of it. That's the mechanical ingredients to the sixth element. But the combinations of increased volume, decreased volume, or no volume, right? And then introduction of vibrato, reduction of vibrato, speed of vibrato, and type of vibrato will give you, and combinations of those will give you different varyings and variations of emotional expression and how to convey those different emotions to give like longing, fear, joy, lust, you name it, all of the gamut. You can create those emotions in those songs with these type of with using these tools as pro tips. This basically the sixth element of singing, these dynamics, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an old song called Auld Lang Syne by Dan Fogelberg, and the last part of it. The overall song is about, so you get the idea, so you can really track with um, the song and why the emotions, the way it's being conveyed, is it's about a guy who runs into his high school sweetheart. They haven't seen each other since high school, presumably, and he runs into her in a grocery store. They're like, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" Kind of a thing. And then they decide to, catch up a little bit, spend some time together. They can't find anywhere to go together, so they just buy like a six pack, and they end up talking in the car and so forth and so on. And then she's not happy with her life really. He's not really happy with his life because she's married now and so forth here, and he's just kind of out on tour being a musician and just not really comfortable. And then they give a kiss to each other, and then they both kind of want more, but she drives away, and he watches her go, and it starts to rain, and it's just very melancholy and so forth and so on. So you get the idea. So I'm going to convey that parting, which is the last part of the song, and so you get the idea of what it's like, right? So it goes like this. I actually want to do it without really using any dynamics. I'm just going to kind of sing the song, not really giving any space, kind of stay in time and not really play with it at all. Not really do any increased volume, vibratos, and things like that. And just kind of give you the overall, this is how it is, right? Beer was empty and our tongues were tired, running out of things to say. Gave a kiss to me as I got out, and I watched her drive away. In just a moment, I was back in school. Felt that unfamiliar pain as I turned to make my way back home. The snow turned into rain. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Okay, now there are going to be some chord changes I'm going to do now too, as well as introduction of volume and vibrato, and creating increasing the volume and decreasing the volume, and then stopping and creating tension with space. Because there's different ways that you create tension in music. You create tension by getting away from the key, the original key of the song, cordially, which is basically with different chords. You create it with tension by creating space and not completing a note when you think it should be completed, and then finally completing it. Like you need the next two bops, right? There's that space in their tension. So, and I'm going to go into in depth as to why this works and the reason that this is so important in this week's podcast. Okay, so if you're not following the podcast, you should, because I go into in-depth things. I give sing-along drills that you can sing along in the car, that you can, where you're working out or whatever, so forth and so on. And I give, other performance and singing theories that just kind of pour it out to you and let you run with it and take it. So back to this, though. Taking a look at it, I'm going to do it like I do in performance, and then I'll break down what I did if you didn't already hear it. I'm going to introduce what I do with volume and vibrato to create the emotional expression, okay? Beer was empty and our tongues were tired, running out of things to say. Gave a kiss to me as I got out, and I watched her drive away. For just a moment, I was back in school. Felt that old familiar pain. As I turned to make my way back home, the snow turned into rain. La, da, 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 la, da, da. Okay, sometimes I hold that note out longer and give more space, but you get the idea. So what I did is, it's basically the same chords. I changed a few chords to give it more oomph. That you can hear, I played the E7, and to give it more in the actual Auld Lang Syne tune that we're all familiar with. But the thing to consider here is I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna break down what I did, where I did it, and why I did it, and what emotion I'm trying to convey, so that you can understand how to take these, not particularly with this song, but with any song, and see what can I do to create more emotion. What can I do to take my singing from just singing to art, and really suck in the audience and make them go wow, kind of thing. So I started out. He's like, it's disappointment. Beer was empty and our tongues were tired. So slow it down, take it out of time, is what I'm doing with this entire part, right? Because the other part of the rest of the song is, met my lover in a grocery store. Snow was falling Christmas Eve. Stole behind her. That it's all in time, a little slower, but it's all in time. Where this is where it gets to the end of the song, you really want to pull it into motion. So I take it out of time and just take each phrase as its own picture, as its own movie, if you will. And you can get it as a scene in a movie. You can picture them on the snowy street where it's turning into rain and there's slush and it's dark and there's, that kind of thing, right? So, beer was empty and our tongues were tired. And I start out a little volume and then bring it back. Running out of things to say. And you can see what I did there. Say. And then put a little vibrato there at the end, right? And what I'm doing is I'm taking most of the mouth voice. This is getting into resonance now, which is the fourth element singing. And then the fifth element singing is shaping, where you resonance modulation mixing, which you heard of is called mixed voice. So you're mixing, and then to kind of create different mixes. So, gave a kiss to me as I got out. I take each one of those and make it like a, gave a kiss to me as I got out, which is just gives it that angst that he doesn't really want to leave the car, right? And I watched her drive away. And then get real, start with increased volume and then back that out so that you actually get, watch her drive away. And it just that disappointment, right? And sadness. And as I turned to make my way back home, the snow turned into rain. Right? But before that, though, there's a see. Beer was empty and our tongues were tired, running out of things to say. Gave a kiss to me as I got out, and I watched her drive away. Then he goes back and, like, for a moment, he was back in school. And there's a little bit of a nostalgic joy, Just a moment, I was back in school. So just kind of soft with no major change because it's kind of a happy, right? For just a moment, I was back in school. And then the familiar pain. Felt that old familiar pain. Now what I did there, instead of just singing, I take it pain. Like the pain just grows and just comes over and overcomes him, right? So it's felt that old familiar pain. And notice, I'm not putting any vibrato until the very end when I tag out that pain. When I take it and turn it into pain, right? Felt that old familiar pain. And then the way back home is where it's just very sad, right? Now as I turn to make my way back home. You take them at a time and give each one space, because lack of volume altogether, creating space, creates tension as well. So even if I pulled that out even more and went, and as I turn to make my way back home, right? You're waiting for me to say the words. Now the trick here, as a side note, okay, is you don't want to create too much tension where then you lose your audience, okay? Because if you create too much tension, then they're going to be like, that's kind of weird, right? But just enough to convey the sadness, right? And as I turn to make my way back home, and then the snow turned into rain. Because it's all nice and soft with a little bit of vibrato to give it that sadness, right? It just, okay, now it's just worse. Now it's raining instead of just snowing, right? And then of course you have the la da 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 la da da, and I just pull that out. You just draw that out. La da 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 da, and it's all light, and then it just overcomes again. La da 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 la da da. And I start that note by itself in the air, and then have the band, my guitar, come in, but not on the C like you would expect. Come back in on this to get that tension. It's not quite there yet, and then go into, and then bring everything together, right? And that's how you're bringing it up, the tension from the rubber band, like a rubber band, and then bringing it back into no tension, and then tension and no tension, okay? And that's what emotion it is. It's tension and the release of tension, more tension than release of tension. And like I say, I'll go into why this is so effective on an audience in the podcast, which will be released on Wednesday. It's every Wednesday. But that's basically how you use volume and vibrato, even more, very specifically on how to use volume and vibrato to convey an emotion. Now you can do this with fast songs, you can do it with, loud songs, dance songs, so forth and so on. It's whatever emotion you're trying to convey. I've used this because I can really stretch it out and give you each individual detail of how it works and why it works and so forth and so on. But you get the idea on that. This is my favorite my favorite element of the 6 elements of singing, right? This is the element that takes it from singing into art. Now, I like shaping as well because that's where you get into accents, so you can do country and all that kind of things, or get into blues, right? But and the rest of the elements themselves. But to really get the details of how this works, you need to go to www.singingfromscratch.com. I'm going to put a link to this specific course, this one element course, in the comments below, and then you can take a look and just check it out and see what the curriculum is, so that you can see how I help you build these tools within yourself, so that you can apply them professionally. And that's your pro tips. All right. Well, Michael Graves from Singing from Scratch. See you next time, and happy singing.
Sing on, yeah.